Hello, good evening. It's Sunday. I'm waiting for the weekly close in Bitcoin, and I am not hopeful that we're going to get the bullish reversal that we have been looking for. But I'm going to start with some good news. Let's go to the monthly chart again and remind ourselves why we're anxiously looking for this bullish reversal in Bitcoin. Previously, so this is a monthly index chart. Previously, when we've had these big corrections, these have been 12 or 13 bars, 12 months. This was a 12 bar correction. This was a 13 bar correction. This was a 12 bar correction. And this also was a 12 bar correction to the low that we made in November. So this is a very, Bitcoin really is very cyclical. If we measure this is 35 bars from this low that we made in 2015 to the high we made in 2017. If I measure this swing here to this high, let's make sure I'm not lying. Look, this was the high. This was also 35 bars, 1,065 days. So what's the good news about that? If this low holds and we rally from here, well, if we rally from here, then if we do the same bull run again, this is going to take us to October 2025, which means we've got more than 2 years to make money in a lovely bull market before this tops out. So I don't expect, and this is why I don't expect now. Previously, we can see back when in 2015 where we made this low, we retested it the following low. So I'm not saying this low might not get retested. Bitcoin loves to do deep retraces. Here, if you missed wave one in the rally that we made from 2018 to 2021, Bitcoin tends to, I've got it on a log scale here, but if I put it onto a regular, Bitcoin tends to struggle to kind of get going and find momentum and convince everybody. And then, it just accelerates and accelerates. And so we're in this slow where nobody quite believes it. Is it really bottomed yet phase? And every bull run in Bitcoin has been the same. Wave one has been really slow to get going. Wave 5 has just been insanity. And I'm really looking forward to the next one. So there is a risk that this pulls back lower. As you know, I think we've done a wave 1 and we're doing a big kind of irregular flat correction for a wave 2 where we do a big ABC here. So the key question at the moment is, have we bottomed? Now, we have done an equal measured move here. We could rally from here, but typically with these flat corrections, like if you think about it, normally a correction, you do a nice 3 waves and on you go, 5 ways up and so on. With these sideways flat corrections, where you do it like this, very often you run the stops on the highs, which we did here, and then you run the stops on the lows. So I would not be surprised if we don't run the stops underneath these people who bought early at 25,000. And it will be a buying opportunity, but there could be, if we think that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, remember the most common retrace is back to the bottom of this wave 4, and that would mean back towards 21,500 or potentially 20,000. So we need to watch out for that. And very often this third leg of a correction quite often unfolds as 5 waves. So we could see a bottom here. As you know, I think that we have a much better chance if we can close above this 236 fib retrace from this high to low, 26,547 here in spot. It's very similar price in the futures. And so that's what I would need to see a weekly close above. And then I would think, we would back to 28,000 and then we see where we go from there. And yes, I would think it is quite likely we have a bottom. So at the moment, we're not going to get this weekly close above this level. It looks like a bit of a reversal. And I don't know how this week's going to unfold because there's quite a lot of news this week. So Monday, we're going to start very quietly this week on Monday with very little data that will move the market. But then on Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got much more going on. We've got Bank of England this week. We've got the Federal Reserve this week. We've got some CPI for the UK as well. And, you know, what the Fed do, I think, is having less and less effect on Bitcoin, but still could be a big, you know, mover. So, and if it, you know, we see a lot of risky off moves in the rest of the markets on Wednesday, that could flow over into Bitcoin. Now, there's about 4 times more volume in Bitcoin derivatives than there is in spot Bitcoin. And that's why, and it's institutional money, and that's why I think that we could, you know, it's not quite as strong as an effect as it used to be, but we could see some moves. So very quiet start to the week. It's a bank holiday in Japan as well to start this week, and there's really very little data. But yeah, get ready for Wednesday and Thursday. Buckle up. So I'm expecting a little bit of a pullback here at the moment in Bitcoin. And, you know, if this unfolds as just a nice 3-wave pullback, that would be great. I do think there is a potential, though, that we come back to the mid 25,000s. And yeah, so now what am I doing? Because I bought a little. I'm going to put my fibs on from this low to this high. I'm really, because we've double topped over this weekend. Here, we've double topped here. I'm really expecting these lows to be tested again. And I'm expecting to do one of those Bitcoin moves where run the stops on the high, run the stops on the low. And that takes us round back to 26,000. But, you know, that would also be, because this looks like a 3-wave move, the most common retrace, I have to say, is, you know, 50% or 78.6, which would be back to these lows. So I'm gonna take some off and keep some. I want to build a little bit of a position, and I don't know how this week's going to unfold, but I'm not going to let it become a loser, let's put it that way. In ETH, as you know, so that's Bitcoin. In ETH, the chart is a little bit easier to read for me in ETH, and I feel like we've got one more low to come. If I put the daily on, we're still getting rolled over at the daily 20 moving average in ETH dollar. I'm still looking for 1510, and the reason is if I measure in ETH, let's take this mess off. If I measure from this high to this low, project it from here, that is the equal measured move level exactly, and it's also the 50% retrace of the entire rally from the lows in June 2022. So simple, you know, my favorite long or short setup, my favorite pullback entry is a equal measured move to a 50% retrace. And if I draw it like this, you can see what I mean. This is the low to this high, and if we project it from here, you can see it lines up equally exactly at 1509, 1510. So I'm still thinking that we could see one more push lower, and I'm looking for that 1510 level in ETH, and we're not quite there yet. So now I have been asked to take a look at INJ, and I'm going to there's huge interest. I thought, to be honest, that the next big thing in crypto was going to be gambling coins and gambling tokens and basically gambling stuff. One of the reasons, you know, whether it's a recession or not, is it's like betting on the casino. They always make money, whether, you know, up market or down market. Gambling firms make a lot of money. So previously I talked about Rollbit, and I was really nasty about Rollbit. And I was really nasty about Rollbit because I think as a platform to gamble or trade on, it's really scummy. Like, if you have a big win, for some markets, they will take 30% of your winnings. 30%. Like, that's daylight robbery. So I wouldn't recommend using Rollbit's platform, but no doubt about it, Rollbit make money. They make a lot of money, which means that the Rollbit isn't a terrible bet. And when I look at this chart, you know, and what it's behaving, I don't think it's a terrible idea. So this is a daily chart of Rollbit, and this was very clearly a nice three-wave rally, and so a nice three-wave pullback, and then we could see another leg higher from here. And at the moment, Rollbit has done a very nice textbook equal measured move. So if we get back above this 61.8 level, it would confirm the bullish reversal, and we would be back above these daily moving averages again as well. So that's at 0.16 Rollbit. If we were to pull back a little bit more and just end up here in an ABC or fail to get above that level, I'm afraid that for me Rollbit's not bottomed yet, and we could do a typical crypto, you know, all the way back. And because this looks like a big three-wave move potentially, we could come all the way back to a 786 retrace. At the moment though, I have to say, this is a textbook 50% equal measure move. What's not to like? And the first target from that setup, because it's a 50% retrace this way, is going to be 50% the other way. So 0.16, and that, remember, is also the confirmation level around there. So 0.16, this area between 0.16 and 0.159 is going to be our tricky resistance, and the first time back to it, we're not unlikely to get above it. And a three-wave move and a reversal there wouldn't be so bullish, but getting above that level and holding above it, yeah, we've bottomed, and that would be quite a good look. So I'm not a fan of these, not a fan of casinos, but they make money, and Rollbit makes money for sure. Okay, let's take a look at the AI coins, because there's huge interest in INJ. First of all, before we talk about them though, let's talk about NVDA, because NVDA is the biggest of the AI stocks. It's the biggest chip. It's the one everyone's talking about. And as you know, I said for a long time for this wave 5, this wave 5 here, that had a target of 500, and then I thought we would have a pullback to 400 before we continue higher. Now on their earnings, so this from the low that we made in September 2022, I think that we can see 5 waves up. It may be that this was an irregular correction, but I think it's 5 waves, which makes the bottom of wave 4 down here at 400. And so that would be, this is my first target on a pullback here. I'm looking for 3 waves back to this 400 level for NVIDIA to be going up again. And I think once it does, and everything else does, that there is a good chance for potentially the AI coins as well, although they might just do their own thing. So that's NVIDIA. Before you jump in, I would just like to say, look at this monthly moving average and how far we are away from these monthly moving averages. We could come back 50% of this whole swing, couldn't we? And really not damage the monthly trend at all. We could come back 50% literally from where we are now in NVIDIA. And why might we do that? NVIDIA is the most expensive stock in terms of valuation that there has ever been. Its valuation is higher than, you know, any of the .com stocks before it crashed. It's higher than Cisco was, you know, in the .com. It's the most overvalued stock there has ever been. And so yes, a nice 20% pullback at minimum, I think, is what we need to see in NVIDIA. And so we can be a little bit patient with these AI stocks. They were really hot over the summer, but for me, most of them haven't, just like Bitcoin, they haven't quite confirmed that we are going up again yet. So let's take a look at them. First off, the most popular one, most talked about, is INJ. And I think in INJ that we could argue that from the lows in 2022, which were in June, that we potentially, I think that this is potentially a wave 4, but potentially we've also got 5 waves up. I hope it's not 5 waves up, because that means potentially we could come all the way back down here. But in injective, I really do like the bullish cross of these weekly moving averages. So a nice 3-wave measured move here to hold support would look really good. But there is an argument that this was the 3-wave correction, and this is a wave 1 of a new upswing. I'm not sure either way, so I'm going to do it really simply the same way as Bitcoin. I'm going to put my fibs on from this high to low, and if injective is going to be going up again, then we need to close above this 236 fib level at 7.2. And if we don't, and if the AI space continues to have a little bit of a bigger pullback, then we're going to look for a retest of these lows in 5.3. And we've got a little bit further to come. We're holding underneath the weekly 20 moving average. 7.2 is really what we need to get above. If we look at these daily moving averages, so we need to see a bottoming pattern and another attack at this level. Otherwise, a little bit of patience, and injective is not going up again yet. Let's take a look at GRT. Now, GRT is the biggest market cap of the coins in this space, and I have to say I don't like this chart as much as some of the others. You know, I put my fibs on 2 ways. I either do the whole swing, but when it's fallen so far that that's silly, I look at the most recent swing for signs that we're going up again. And so for the most recent swing here in GRT, we're going to go from the high in 2022 to the low here. And once again on this monthly chart, you can see that we've failed to get and hold above this 236 fib at 0.17. We're still going down. If you look at it on the weekly, we couldn't close above it on the weekly either. And this is turning into quite a deep race, what we trace well underneath these moving averages. So GRT for me is like, yeah, not, you know, unlike some of them that have flipped these moving averages and are holding above them and look much better, this, not so much. Now, I think if they all rally, that this could too as well. And this has had a big retrace. And clearly in relation to the big rally, this is a choppy overlapping correction. I'm just not sure that it's the best performer. And you really kind of want the fastest horse in the race if you can. So GRT, I'm going to pass on this one. I do see some bullish divergence. I think if one goes up, they will all go up. Okay, let's take a look at FET. This is another one where I love it when I see all of this is a weekly chart. So clearly we've had a really nasty pullback, but off the lows that we made in November 2022, same time the stock market and everything else did, and Bitcoin did, we've had a really nice rally, and we could argue that potentially this is 5 waves, and this is a choppy overlapping correction. So same thing as Bitcoin. If I put my fibs on from the high that we made in February to the low that we made in the middle of August, we have not been able to get above this 236 fib. But when we do, and when we close above 0.266, I think we'll see another swing higher. And if this was in FET, if this was wave 1 and this is our steep pullback, then, you know, we could be going all the way back to 1.05 and retesting these highs in, if this next swing is 1.618, if not new highs. So kind of like this one. So FET is definitely a preferred one for me. And I love it when the moving averages bunch up like this. You tend to get a explosive move, just like we did here. The moving averages all bunched up here back in 2020 November. We got stuck in between them, and then explosive rally. Very nice look, 1, 2, 3. You can't argue that that wasn't a lovely 5-wave rally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what I'm looking for. And yes, a close above 2.66. If this is not a chart that you look at very often, I would like even put an alert there if we come back to this level, and let's see if we can hold above it. So this is definitely on my watch list, Fetch AI, but just not the bullish reversal we need to see yet. And we could come back and retest these lows. If I, unfortunately with wave 2 pullbacks, sometimes you can come back quite a long way. I do think though that this 786 double bottom, as you know, I'm not a big fan if we go beyond the 786. So I don't think this double bottom will be broken, and we may turn up again, but I'm personally not going to buy any unless we can get above that 0.26 level, 0.266. Okay, next one, and here's one I do like as well, Ocean. Now let's zoom out in Ocean. So a very deep pullback in this one. I'm looking at Binance, quite a lot of Binance charts. It's not necessarily recommending Binance. Now, I love how we have flipped these weekly moving averages, and I love how relative to this sharp rally, this is clearly choppy and overlapping and corrective, and I'm going to look for another wave higher. The problem is when I look from this low to this high, we pull back to 61.8 here. So we're doing that thing in the middle, consolidation, golden ratio zone. Very often when you do that, you can end up with a Gartley and you do one more leg lower, as you know, down to the 786. If we did that, a bullish Gartley here would be a bargain, I think, for Ocean. Not sure we're going to do that. We could very easily just go sideways and then up we go, holding these weekly moving averages. But if we were to dip down here, if everything has a bit of a shakeout, that's definitely a good place to be looking at it. And if we measure this first swing lower, yeah, it's not quite. It's choppy. Anyway. Now, if we can see how we're going side, so this 786, if everything continues to pull back, this would be a really nice pullback level for Ocean. But because we're doing that 61.8, 38.2 thing, let me take all of these other fibs off, put them on, and we'll change the color. So this is our golden ratio zone look that we're going sideways within. It's messy. 61.8, 38.2 fibs are messy. But I think if we get above 0.346, we're going to go back up to the top of the range at 0.4. And if we then, we're either going to do this and hold this, that would be a bottom. Or if we get outside of this box and hold above it, that would also be a long for me. So I would be a buyer here, or if we could get above and hold above 0.346. Ocean, definitely like this one for another leg higher. Now, where is the first target going to be? Because if this is still just corrective, because this was a 61.8 pullback, it means that a bearish corrective move here would be an ABC, where this second swing was 61.8 of the first one. So if we couldn't get above 0.54 again, this would mean this whole thing was just corrective and we're still going down. But above 0.54, back up the truck, because we should get to at least this 38.2, but then we'll go level to level to level on this weekly chart in Ocean. So Ocean is one that I like as well as Fetch. So let's look at a couple more, because this is one I like as well. It's Render. Why do I like Render? Well, I showed you why I like Render. 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we look at corrections are normally 3 waves, and they normally have a relationship between the first and second wave. I also like to see that this B leg unfolds in 3 waves, and when I do that here, you can see that clearly it did. So that means that our equal measured move level for a pullback in render is 1.15, unless we get back above this 61.8 level, which would say no, we've bottomed early. And that unfortunately is where we just got rejected at 1.6. So above 1.6 and holding above 1.6 in render would be a buy for me. Otherwise, I'm waiting for this to pull back to 1.15. And I definitely like this one for next one, another swing higher. So I'm waiting on that one. Now, if we do rally from here, we'll close above it this week, then obviously retest of the highs would be your first target. And then we go from there in render. So render has a definitely a better look than GRT. So which other ones did I like? I really liked OP. Let's take a look at OP. Now, here on the weekly, the reason that I like OP is because we reverse from a 786 fib retrace. I think we've done the first swing higher, and I'm looking for a second swing to take us up to this 38.2 minimum target. Okay, now, just like all of the other coins and tokens that we're looking at, we need to see a close above this 236 fib from this high to say we are going up again. And if we go down to a daily in this one, it looks like this is a big three-wave correction, doesn't it? So there's our first swing, there's our 61.8 level. As long as we stay above 1.245, we are going up. But if we fall or close underneath it, we're going back to that round number one. So yeah, good chance from here. But the problem is, well, actually, it's not really a problem. I like it. But this was a 50% retrace. When you do a 50% that way, mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. So we're going to look in OP for a 50% retrace here to hold and then turn up again. And that 50% number is 1.322. So haven't quite got there yet. And this is likely to be kind of three-wave move this week in OP. And then hopefully, I'm not going to hope. I'm going to watch the price action at 1.322, and then I think OP could be a nice buy there for another swing higher. So yeah, looking good. Again, retest the highs, and then as you know, that 38.2 level at 2.16, I think it is my next target. Let's put it back on. Yeah, that's that 38.2 retrace level. So 2.18, my apologies, not 2.16. So there's a big pivot level in the middle at 1.5, and there's also the daily 50 moving average. But yeah, that one I'm stalking an entry in. Let's see how that 50% retrace holds in OP. Okay, I hope that was useful. If there's any more you'd like me to look at, send me a message. Good luck.